This episode is brought to you by novel Til The Bitter endemic. What if there was a happy ending to a pandemic? Perhaps an unexpected love story. After Daisy gets thrust into mandatory quarantine for an infection she can't explain, it's up to her to unravel the truth as to what's behind it and what she can ultimately do to escape it. But she can't do this alone, and that's where she finds not only herself, but a very special person that opens their heart for the betterment of their survival. Find out how in Til The Bitter endemic, coming soon.
Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Art of the Beholder, a show dedicated to all things eclectic in the world of art. I'm your host, Novo Day, and today we're going to be talking about art in music in the third and final part in our three-part series in what we're calling Radiohead's Music Theory Trilogy, focusing on albums In Rainbows, The King of Limbs, and A Moon-Shaped Pool. Today we'll be discussing A Moon-Shaped Pool. To hash things out, we're once again joined by our executive, our exclusive, our senior correspondent. That is Mr. Theodore T. Buckingham. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Buck.
Thank you. I'm here in the present tense, ready to do a Dex Dark with glass eyes.
I love it when you do those, for the record. I don't think
Really?
I've ever told you that. I like it when you string together all those little either lyrics or track titles or whatever for your intro. Oh, I love it.
Oh, okay.
Welcome back.
Keep it
Welcome
going.
back.
Thank
For
you.
week three in our Radiohead month, talking all things music theory. I know we need like a wham, wham, wham.
Wham.
We need like sound effects and shit.
October.
Guys, try to hold back the tears. We're at the end. We're at the end of the road.
What?
Yeah, this is by definition. There's only three, and this is the third one of the trilogy. But before we talk about A Moon-Shaped Pool, let's give the good people a primer again. Why we're talking about this. So again, guys, if you haven't heard our other pieces, go back. What are you doing? Listen to the first two, and then come back to this third one to understand that sometimes artists create a series of work that stands as a trilogy or a series of albums that are a comprehensive package of music, sometimes as albums themselves. We're looking at you, Bowie, with the Berlin Trilogy. Sometimes it's on purpose, just like that. Sometimes it's accidental. We are probably the camp that they didn't mean to do this, but something became very abundant when I started studying the last three albums of Radiohead, and that is that they all composed the basic building blocks of music. The basic building blocks of music include melody, rhythm, and harmony. That is the basic building blocks of all music. It gets very complicated from there. But
I wanted every time you said that.
Ding.
Ding.
But every album emphasized one of those basic building blocks. In Rainbows was incredibly melodic. It is the melody album. The King of Limbs was the rhythmic album. And now, of course, we get to the album that embodies harmony, A Moon-Shaped Pool. Now, A Moon-Shaped Pool is, just like the last two, another departure for not only Radiohead, but their discography as a whole. With its strong use of harmonies through strings, full orchestras, and even choirs, the piece is elevating. Now, I used a lot of imagery with our last two pieces, so I'm going to do it again to connect all of the dots and bring us home for this final piece. And that is, if In Rainbows is the beautiful landscape, the mountainside, peaks and valleys, and The King of Limbs is the dark, cavernous depths of the human mind and psyche, now we're in the clouds, Buck. We're in the heavens. We're high above it all, looking down at those peaks and valleys, those grasslands, and those caves deep, deep underground. And we've made it.
Is it a eulogy?
Is it a eulogy?
Is it a, is it the end? Is it an epitaph of something that was
Is it a coda?
Yeah, a coda. There you go. A coda.
That's
is it that?
A musical coda?
I think, when we talk about these albums, it's bittersweet because I know like these last three albums they made, it took a toll on all of them.
This one definitely took a toll on them from the interviews they gave, or the lack thereof. They actually would, like when they were promoting this, they would say, we don't want to do any interviews right now because of what we were going through to even make this album.
I think there was a Guardian article or something, and not to get political, but they were saying like, because I almost thought that this was almost more similar to Hail to the Thief than any other album they had made.
There is a lot of politics. I would say there's
Yeah.
a couple of what I would call protest songs, like activism kind of tracks.
Yeah.
And we'll get there in a minute.
Yeah, the Guardian, they wrote something about like where Hail to the Thief was kind of like a soundtrack to the era of Tony Blair, George W. Bush. This was like an accidental soundtrack towards the era of the Trump presidency.
I knew you were going with that.
And I never had thought about it that way, I guess.
Honestly, I think that was accidental too.
No, it was very accidental. Hail to the
Where
Thief
Hail to the Thief was not accidental.
I mean,
it was very clear and precise.
The title alone. And we'll leave it at there. I don't want to get in deep in that. But like kind of when it said that, I was kind of thinking of that era. And there was a lot, this really was kind of a soundtrack for me during that time too. And it was it's somber.
Oh my God. It's somber.
No, I just would say my thesis of that, I guess it's a somber. It was almost like a little bit of a goodbye, and that's and we'll get to that later. But it's a different album again. It's different from what they've done before.
Completely different than the last two.
Yes. And
the use of harmony, harmonics. We've never seen this before in Radiohead, too.
No.
We've always seen hints of it. It was always an afterthought, how to disappear completely. Like, we've always seen string arrangements and orchestral accents and pieces in Radiohead songs, but it never has taken the foreground. It's never taken the spotlight quite like a Moon-Shaped Pool. But in a weird way, it was inevitable, too. When you look at their history and their evolution as a band, as a musical ensemble, as they're even maturing, their music got so much more mature, and we're definitely at the most mature music they have ever written.
Yeah, I think this one, this was their most grown-up album. Not to say that the other ones weren't, but this one felt like it was for a little bit more of a different audience. It wasn't really trying to reach out to younger folks or anything. It was more like they're making this for them. Like the first, especially with the first track, the music video itself was inspired by, something from their childhood, though. These stop animation kind of things, but still like
that video for Burn the Witch was really special.
It's really special and it's really interesting. But again, going back to the theme of it's made for people maybe their age a little bit more, that only people from that era would have probably really understood that, and more specifically from the UK probably, but what that was. But it just, it definitely felt, there's nothing that really gets you jamming on this album.
Full stop.
Full stop maybe.
Full stop's jamming.
Yeah. But overall, it's again, I'm going back to somber.
It is very somber, and there's a lot of layers. There's a lot of depth, and much like our thesis and our audio essay of this being a cohesive body of work, these three albums, the Music Theory Trilogy, it's easy to look at these three albums as melody focused, rhythm, and then harmony focused, but it's also I will connect these three in a different way, because I called in Rainbows the closest thing to them ever making a series of love songs. Like it was like a love song album, where this is and if The King of Limbs was the bridge to these two albums, the foundation, the roots, this was the opposite of love. When you have a love album, the opposite of that, of course, is a breakup album. And I think this is the closest thing to Radiohead ever releasing a very somber, sad breakup album.
I could see that.
Yeah,
I could see that. I think,
I mean, and we'll put a pin in this now. We'll get to it when we actually dive into the album itself. I mean, the songs are, I know you read more lyrics than me usually, but this is the first time in a long time I've actually sat down and read Radiohead lyrics. They're not cryptic. Like a lot of the other music they write, these are very clear and concise and often very gut-wrenching.
In this one, I mean, even, we start out from the first track, it's already, you've got Stay in the Shadows and Cheer at the Gallows. I mean, from the beginning.
The imagery is already there.
Yes.
So a lot to discuss, but before we can discuss, of course, we all need a little background. It was released digitally on May 8th, 2016, followed by a physical release This is their 9th studio album, the last album they have put out following The King of Limbs. It was produced again by longtime collaborator Nigel Goodrich. Album artwork was designed by longtime collaborator Stanley Donwood again, and of course, Tom York assisted. To kick things off, I want to get your first impressions again, like we've done with the last 2 albums, and hear what you thought of this album the very first time you heard it.
The first track kind of set the tone, and that's when I thought, sounds like Hail to the Thief. Then we get to the second track and kind of got bummed out after I read the lyrics. And it kind of goes in a little bit of waves. This is an interesting album overall. This is probably the album I've listened to the least all the way through.
Really?
And there's nothing. I love this album. It's just the standout songs to me hit harder than maybe the other ones did. The other albums did, and that's kind of how I perceived it. I was extremely excited when it came out. It kind of came out of nowhere, like we alluded to later. There wasn't a lot of press. There wasn't a lot of too much talk about it, and again, it was kind of like with The King of Limbs. I was extremely excited. I was, it was one of those things where first thing in the morning I woke up and listened to the whole thing. It just was a different tone and a feeling than what I had before. It was definitely something I was not expecting coming out of The King of Limbs. Their subsequent singles releases after that. It was very different. And I also had a track on here that I had heard multiple times in concert live, on their live album they had released before, and kind of another Radiohead thing where they take a song out of their catalog that they would play live a lot and retooled it again. So that was another kind of shock to me.
I think I think it was a shock to all of us. I know what you're hinting at. Let's keep it a little secret between the two of us, and we'll get there.
Pinky swear on it.
Pinky swear, because they closed a lot of loops here. This is a lot of, I think that's a good segue to state that a lot of the pieces on here were older pieces that they wrote maybe 20, 30 years ago that they just could not quite arrange for a proper studio release. Like they wrote the song years ago, they would play a version of it live, and they tried to make a studio, very polished, very unique version of it, and they were unhappy with them time and time again until now, and we get a lot of pieces. Actually, Burn the Witch, if people forget, was a very old piece that was rearranged for this album. My first impression was a little bit of the opposite of yours, in that I always listen to the whole thing through. For one, that stuck out to me when you said that. But short answer, I liked it immediately. I liked it right away. Where like The King of Limbs, it took a long time to get into those studio pieces. And of course, like we said in our thesis or our conclusion for The King of Limbs, it wasn't until their live renditions where I was like, oh my God, this is some of the best work they've ever made. In Rainbows is still my favorite because I base a lot of my favorite music on re-listenability. Like I can listen to that album over and over again. I'm not that way with the Moonshaped Pool, but like preparing for this piece, listening to Moonshaped Pool 2 dozen times before this episode, I was in heaven. I really love these pieces, and I remember feeling that way. I remember just being like, I like this because remember, you were a Radiohead, like a Radiohead super fan is what I call them, way before me.
Superhead.
And it took Superhead, and it took me in Rainbows to really get there. And so by the time I was a seasoned vet by the time I got to A Moonshaped Pool, so that's why I liked it immediately. Like it was like all the different kinds of Radiohead we've seen over the years, but pushed to this one side. I think it's because, and we've talked about this in other shows, I'm a sucker for strings. I love classical movements. Oh yeah, and that's why they have such a heavy emphasis of harmony here. The harmonics are like, sometimes when I was re-listening to pieces, even like re-listening to the album right before we got on, I was hearing new harmonies. I was like, man, is that Tom York's like a chopped up vocal in the background? And I had to listen. It is, there was more layers that I didn't realize, but since it was mixed so well, it was very much a cohesive body. It's hard to hear where one thing ends and another begins. To great effect. That was very purposeful. Before we dive into the album itself, much like the other albums, Radiohead has always put out these little little singles or EPs or whatever. And between these trilogy of albums, there's always been some bridges that we saw between. And they released on December 25th, Christmas Day, 2015, they released the track Spectre.
Yes.
I was in love immediately with that piece. And it was an amazing bridge between the King of Limbs and a Moonshaped Pool, because we got to hear there is like a bond. I don't want to, you can YouTube this, guys. There's like whole documentaries dedicated to the Bond theme. So there's a certain melodic phrase in a certain series of notes that's in almost every single Bond theme, and you hear it in the Radiohead piece.
Oh, yeah.
And it made me feel that nostalgia for those movies. And I just thought it was a perfect song. It got me excited for future music.
Spectre, I fell in love with it. At first, actually, when I listened to it, I got angry.
Oh, why?
Because, I've alluded to this in the past episode.
Those strings, man.
Why was this not included in the movie? And then my conclusion
that
is
kind of anger.
It is a great song that's too good for a very mediocre movie. You can read, there's some good video essays on Spectre online. One of them is how Radiohead wrote the perfect Bond theme by listening in. So shout out to that YouTube channel, where they describe exactly what you just said of how they basically put the Bond, they intertwined the Bond theme into their song. They followed basically, that whole framework.
There's a very specific series of notes that make that Bond theme, and it's in every single piece I think it's ever been written.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's still like something. I'll get into these, like, I call them music vendors a little bit, but like, where I'll listen to a song.
Let's get drunk on music. Yeah,
I'll get drunk on music, but I'll listen to a song over and over and over again, maybe like 3 or 4 times in a row.
Oh yeah,
and
it's obsessive.
that has been one I've always gone back to. They've also people have edited it into the Spectre theme.
I was
online.
You read my goddamn mind, Buck. Look at you. I was about to say that. You guys, you can check out the actual intro cut of Spectre with the Radiohead Spectre. Check it out. It's amazing. That bridges us into a Moonshaped Pool, which starts with the track we've already been talking about, Burn the Witch. It is famous for a orchestral string arrangement that does not use traditional bows. I wanted to start there. They use what are called, you guys know it as guitar picks. A guitar pick, a little plastic pick. They're called plectrums. That's the fancy term. I thought it was stupid when I was doing my homework. I'm like, just call it a fucking guitar. It's a guitar pick. We don't call them plectrums. We don't call them plectrums anymore. But in like full orchestra, like in the Chamber Music Society, circles, they're calling them guitar plectrums. Anyways, that's what they used.
We have to make it sound sophisticated.
Yeah, we have to make it sound sophisticated.
Fancy.
That's what they use. So Johnny Greenwood, of course, with the help of a orchestra conductor, with the London Contemporary Orchestra with Hugh Brunt as conductor, they would, of course, experiment with a lot of different things, and they switched out their bows for picks, and that's why Burn the Witch has this kind of percussive essence to the string arrangements, and it creates that. I knew you probably were feeling this way, so I'm gonna lead you into the discussion with, when you're a film buff, like a lot of us at NDP, gave you that anxiety-driven musical flow, like Psycho.
Ooh, yes. Yeah, because it's kind of like building up to something. Yeah, I actually thought about that until now, to be honest with you. But it does give you that feeling.
Gives you that. There's dread. There's uneasiness and dread. There's tension. But in again, because it's in the medium that is music, it's in this very alert. Like you want to open the door. You hear that a mysterious voice right beyond the door, or you hear a weird noise in the basement, but you still want to investigate. It's that kind of anxiety.
Yeah.
Open that door.
You should run away, but you don't want to.
Yeah, and this is a perfect, with the emphasis on harmony. With classical movements, they're called movements for a reason. You want to think of, instead of everything being on this perfectly single track or grid, we call it in production, I always think of a flock of birds moving in the sky. Like there is an order to it, even though it's like it could be 100 birds of the same species, like all moving together at the same time.
Like in True Detective, like where
yes,
they go
exactly.
in a spiral.
Like there's this swirl and there's this movement to it. but there's an order to it. They're communicating with each other just like a 40-piece, 60-piece, 80-piece, 100-piece orchestra is doing all together at the same time with the conductor. And we see that in the crescendo of the piece. So it ends with this, it kind of speeds up a little bit. It goes a little more up in volume, and you can probably see the conductor conducting them that way, because that's what a conductor does. I think a lot of people don't know what they do. They're like, why are they even there? They have sheet music in front of them. They could just play together. The conductor is conducting. He is speeding them up, slowing them down, changing things in real time that you, the audience, don't even realize is happening. But that makes it unique, makes it powerful, and makes it very musical too.
That's a really good way of putting it. It's very. It seems almost like natural, like it's a part of nature. It's just very interesting. Again, when I first heard this was kind of a surprise to hear the strings come on like this. Some have called this orchestral pop. This song,
or baroque pop, or
yeah, and I've never really thought about it that way.
I disagree. We humbly disagree, guys.
We humbly
gals.
disagree with yeah. But the to me, what really pointed out to me with this one, and I said this earlier, were the lyrics, and it was kind of it still is a weird time, but this is kind of the beginning, I felt like, of kind of the weird time, and like that we've kind of ended up in now, and maybe it's just part of getting older. But just like the whole video and stuff, I was thinking about it. It's this stop animation, like looks like a children's thing, and it's like a recreation of the Wicker Man kind of.
Exactly. Check it out, guys. It's a really cool video.
It's really cool.
The piece itself is, they have not relied on the chorus, just the traditional song chorus in a long time, but this one is just chef's kiss perfect.
Yeah.
And once you read the lyrics, you'll hear exactly what the chorus is saying every time, but if you listen for the first time, you don't really know what he's saying, but it's one of those that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The harmony matters, the flow of the music matters, the movements matter, and it all comes together to really create something special.
Yeah, he's singing Burn the Witch, but I never thought he was actually saying that.
Yeah, all the words and syllables are really stretched out. A lot of tied notes long. That's Tom York's falsetto style and aesthetic and approach, 101. He loves doing that with words. He'll stretch them out to make them long and make them really unique to fit the needs of the song. That brings us to track number 2, Daydreaming. And this is much like Buck has already kind of hinted at, almost the opposite of Burn the Witch.
Yeah.
It's ambient, dreamlike. I think you called it sad and somber. Definitely the lyrics are. But again, the orchestral movements, the harmonics are captivating, especially that kind of bridging piece that's this like layered, I would call it a layered harmonic vocal string key arrangement. So there's a lot going on there, guys. And that to me was like the words I would use. So you'd use sad and somber and stuff like that. I felt like this song was, I'd use the words haunting, ethereal, otherworldly, transporting, transcendental. Those were my feelings.
When I was doing the research for this, I was curious to see what other people thought. And on a website, it said, because I wanted to see if I was thinking the same thing. The first comment I read was, here's my advice. Don't fucking read the comments about this song. Just feel it.
Oh, I like that.
And I stopped. I literally stopped, because what this song meant to me when I first heard it, and it's interesting. It's dreamers, they never learn. And it kind of made me think of like, this is like partially a song about growing older and realizing like half of your life is over.
That, and also I had this feeling of like, when I think of daydreamers, I think of kids, like, even though, yes, we're like, to your point, we're getting older, but we're still acting like children, or,
yes.
We're not growing up. We're not actually becoming adults yet. And I don't think I've ever heard this anywhere else. So maybe this is an AOTB first, but in that vein of like daydreaming, youthfulness, adolescence, I feel like the piano figure, the arpeggio series of notes, I remember the first time I heard that, and I was like, this is kind of amateurish for Radiohead. What a simple
It's very
melody.
simple. Yeah.
Very simple. And I thought like, because I remember the first time I was writing little stuff on the guitar, piano, I would write these little arpeggios, and it sounded almost like that. And I thought maybe that was mirroring the kid in them. And then, of course, they do try to grow up, and of course they bridge into these very sweeping movements and these very complicated orchestral pieces.
Like the outro to the song too.
Yeah, when they use the the backward
vocals of Half of My Life. That's when
Yeah, oh,
because
that
I
gets ya.
never
That
I
pulls
never
at ya.
like knew what they said until I actually had to. I was like curious when I first heard this, and it was actually a couple of years later I looked at it, Half of My Life, and that's I guess basically where I thought about that, and kind of to your point too, where they're talking about we're getting older, but we're still acting young, but like to me, it's like it's half of my life has gone. I've still been acting this way, or we've still been kind of coming to terms with like kind of looking forward and being like, what are we doing? What are we going to do going forward? And like I spent half my life doing this already. That's why I said it was really somber. Like when I first looked at it, it was kind of gut punch a little bit. But I do like what you said about it. It's the tying in like just the melody and the music. It's very simple.
Right. Well, that piano figure is simple. That
Yeah.
little
The background.
arpeggio figure is. I feel like everyone learns something like that growing up. If you're a musician, you learn when you learn the basics. You learn these little figures. Just like usually 3 to 5 notes repeated, and it's very pretty,
Yes.
But I felt like, man, are they trying to say something here musically?
In the video, there's a music video. You should check it out. It's directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. But Greenwood Johnny, he's scored a lot of his films.
Yeah.
So
They are close. They are close artistically.
Kind of deep music video there too. A lot of meaning. I know this was shown in some theaters too. They sent 35 millimeter prints to select theaters, inviting people to screen it. So that's kind of cool. That is another thing that says, yeah, that's totally Radiohead. They would do something like that.
Yeah, this is, I believe, the second of their second single after Burn the Witch.
Mm-hmm.
Track number 3 is a piece called Dex Dark. There's not a ton I want to say about this one. It's another reminder that, guys, of course, these are songs. They have the other building blocks of music. They have melody. They have rhythm. The rhythm is incredibly simple. I fall into Dex Dark from that just very simple drum beat that starts the track off. I mean, this one is all I will say. It sounds like you have a lot to say, so I'll give you the floor here in a minute. All I'll say is like I feel like the lyrics were very, very powerful. Again, this is another one where I read a lot of the lyrics, and I felt what Tom was feeling.
This is my favorite song on the entire album.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
absolutely love this song.
I real quick, I have to say this. I feel like this is the only album where I am always shocked at people's favorite track on the album. I was shocked at my brother's favorite track.
What was his?
I think Tinker Tailor. I think Tinker Tailor was his favorite. And when I told him my favorite, it hasn't come up yet. His floor hit the ground because he was like, "That's my least favorite."
Really?
Yeah. And so to hear yours being Dex Dark, Dex Dark's kind of in the middle, somewhere in the middle for me. Like it's a good track. It's definitely not my least favorite, not my favorite.
I'm surprised. And I'm looking at like the view count or the listen counts too. It's in the top 4. Okay. Yeah. But which I'm a little shocked. I think this is one of the prettiest songs I've ever done. And, well,
really,
I would say,
man,
one of the most haunting.
I'm so glad we don't do a pre-interview show because I love getting these remarks when we're actually live, so I can react like this. I am shocked.
This is like I absolutely love this song. This is another one. This is probably on this album. I know for sure I have played this song more than any of them.
Wow.
And I go back to it. It's on my.
You said it's the prettiest song to you that they've ever written ever, or just for
No. It's I would let me say it's like pretty in a haunting way.
Very haunting.
Yes. Yeah, it's very haunting. I'd rather say that. But during the there's the first chorus and then you have the first verse where you have this build up and you have like this kind of choral singing in the background and it crescendos up into like this really falsetto. I don't know who did it. Who was doing the backing vocals for this.
It's hard because they use choirs on this album too.
Yeah.
So you don't know if it's Tom doing like an overdub, vocal track.
Well, I thought it was Ed actually doing some of it, and then it sounded like a choir kind of steps in and kind of does the higher end. I can't replicate it because I don't go that high, guys. I don't want to embarrass myself on here. But like
we're tenors. We're not.
Yeah.
We're not sopranos or falsettos.
Yeah. I love it. Starts out with like this little kind of, simple kind of like little guitar riff, like kind of that just in the background. And then so one thing I wanted to point out too, now that I'm thinking
Yeah,
about this,
go.
in this album, did you notice that there's a lot of like little sounds and little hidden Easter eggs related to older albums?
Not necessarily older albums, but I did hear a number of the King of Limbs, unused properties on here. That I had hints of it on the actual King of Limbs or some of the B-side or the Ox songs, and sometimes reused here. But that makes sense because remember, a lot of these tracks, like we can't stress this enough, a lot of these tracks, this is an album of a lot of older material that was rearranged to breathe a little new life into them.
Man, I can't say how much this is another one of my favorite Radiohead songs ever. I'm still a little shocked. Like, and I know everyone each their own. And this, I believe this is also featured in the show Ozark in their first episode. I think this was the outro track.
I love me some Ozark. That's why I call TV Del Rio because of that character.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's that first villain who's like the best villain in the whole movie or the whole show, and they fucking kill him off. Spoilers, sorry guys. The first season,
it's been out for a while.
Yeah. So tough titties. We haven't said that in a while. Tough titties. Spoilers.
I know, like for a fact that they put that in there because Jason Bateman is a huge Radiohead fan.
So Dex Dark, guys. Dex Dark is Buck's favorite track on the album. Check it out. Track number 4 is Desert Island Disc. This is another one I don't have a ton to talk about.
I don't either.
The lyrics again really stood out to me. Especially the different types of love. Different types of love are possible. Is I thought such a profound lyric.
All the lyrics on this album very poetic.
Some are, even to Tom York's roasting himself, there's a little cliche, like the system is a lie kind of lyrics. But he did say that there's no other way to say certain things sometimes,
Yeah.
The system is a lie sometimes. So he just like, that's the lyric. I can't spice it up better for you guys. Sometimes you just have to say the cliche version for you.
Sometimes that's all you can do. And it's funny you brought that up. I was watching a video on a guy. He's a Radiohead fan, but he's one of those that kind of makes like the kind of the parodies of this is how you make a Radiohead song or this is how you make a Smith song, and like goes through their progressive chords and stuff like that. And basically a lot of Radiohead is, something about down with the system or government, and like they put like some cliche saying in there. But yeah, no, I this is I don't have a lot to say on this one. It's kind of another quiet, melodic, again pretty song, but really impactful lyrics again on it. But yeah, it's not one that I don't think stands out.
I think it's still a very solid, good track.
Yeah.
It's somewhere like in the middle for me again.
Yeah, it's in the middle.
And I
There's
feel like
no
it's
duds on this album.
Right. And it's kind of the kind of track that is a bridge for track number 5, Full Stop, which is kind of that OG Radiohead Let's Fucking Rock kind of song.
Yeah.
It's the only fast song on the whole album, really. Identikit gets a little fast, but Full Stop is really, myxomatosis of a moon-shaped pool. And I love Full Stop.
Build up.
Yeah, I love Full Stop. It's great. The lyrics are powerful again. You really messed up. You really messed up everything. And when he asked to be like, take me back again, that's really powerful. Clive Deemer even played on this from the King of Limbs. I love Full Stop. And I call it a bridge for the entire album as a cohesive whole.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of slower or more harmonic, more orchestral pieces, or ambient or haunting, and this one is like, it gives us a break. There's always like a track like that is either the centerpiece or the bridge of an album, where if you have a lot of, for example, we hear the opposite of this on a lot of albums, definitely outside of Radiohead, where we have a lot of fast, mid-tempo or fast songs through the whole album. And then maybe towards the end, we have like a ballad, and then we have a few fast songs again. Where this one is a series of kind of slower orchestral songs. So then we have like a fast song to break up the slower songs. So it's just doing the opposite here to give you a little kind of a break. Even though it's fast, it's not really a break. It's more like the rest of the album is breaks, and then this is no breaks.
Yeah, and this is interesting because I was looking through this, and I always thought, like you said, it's a build up whole song feels like one build up, one crescendo. And I
That
thought
got that Colin Greenwood bass line.
yeah, it's got that nice little dun, 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 and it keeps, but it's great. And this was when I referred back to, this sounds like a song like that came from, or I said this album says like it came from, sounds more like it came from the Hail to the Thief era. This was the song that I remember hearing first, and I've been like, this is what sounds like maybe they wrote it back then. But I was surprised it didn't come out
Probably,
until
yeah, totally.
2012 is when they introduced it live.
It's definitely like that Radiohead
But it
back
feels
to
like that
basics,
era.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that old like, hey, let's get off the fucking synthesizers and computers and fucking drum machines. Like, let's play our instruments. Like, we're musicians. I
Yeah,
want to play instruments again. So that's that track.
this made Ed and Phil happy.
That brings us to track number 6, Glass Eyes. Hey, it's me. I just got off the train. I think I'll surprise. I'm ready for your jaw to drop. This is my favorite track on the album.
Really?
Yeah, this is my favorite track on the album. Is Glass Eyes. I think everyone is always surprised. All of the Radiohead heads that I know when I bring up this album, and we kind of get eventually to this conversation in the about the album. Glass Eyes. I think it's because Radiohead was specifically Tom York, since he's the main writer lyricist of the band. He doesn't write a lot of story-driven lyrics, and this one is the first time where you can really see the story play out. Like, hey, like he's on the phone, right? Hey, it's me. I just got off the train, but but panic is taking over. Should I buy another ticket? It's just like I feel like I'm with him. I actually like there's a lot of emotional tracks on here. We've already talked about that a million times. It's very clear to you guys listening that this is an emotional album, but I feel the most of it here. I think that's why I love this track so much. And the music, I really think, mirrors that too, because just like Tinker Tailor, like we get these really crazy arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
These like, especially with the bridge, some of the bridging portions, some of the outro portions, just the note selection and the figures. I don't hum any of these. It's not like in Rainbows, because it's not very melodic, but I can actually hear the harmonies in my head. And I sometimes will play with those in my mind, and it'll brighten up my day with because those harmonies are so powerful.
Incredibly interesting, because this is what I call my cheer up Charlie point of the album.
Cheer up, Charlie.
Cheer up, Charlie. This is the song that when you were a kid you would fast forward through.
See, yeah, Kobar Spiritual, my brother, said the same thing. He was like, "Oh, I thought that was like kind of the weakest song on the album."
Yeah, I thought so
nah,
too.
Brah. Nah, brah. Tasty waves, brah.
So this is my cheer up Charlie's part of the album.
What is that from Willy Wonka?
Willy Wonka. Factor? It's a part This is a part I always fast forwarded through.
Yeah, you gotta. I think that's a good analogy, but not for me. I don't know.
To each their own.
It's one.
I respect.
It's one of those like this is why artists is subjective, but also fascinating and powerful. And I can't quite explain it, Buck. I love because I can kind of see that. I can kind of see yours and my brother's take on why this is a cheer up Charlie kind of track. But I hear it. I really did soul searching too. I was really thinking about. Because I was like, I know this is gonna fucking come up in the show. Like, what's your favorite track, Novo? And no, this it's Glass Eyes for me.
I think right now it's a good time
because it is a little more melodic. Cool. It is a little more melodic.
Yeah,
where Identikit is a little more rhythmic. It gets a little more. It gets a little more of the King of Limbs again. A little bit
rhythmic. I think this is a good time for a T-Buck Tangent Corner before we get into the next song.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Give it to me. Let me buckle up.
Love
Click.
Yeah, it's going to be quick. Don't worry.
Oh, I'm worried. I'm looking at the time. It's okay. I'll edit it.
Yeah. I was looking at it too. And we should keep this in anyway because it's kind of funny. I was like, wow, we've talked about this a lot longer than I thought we would.
No, this one's a lot. This is like an In Rainbows wrong. There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. King of Limbs is a short album. This is 20 something minutes longer, but the release of this album, they did like a limited release, and it's probably my favorite vinyl I have, the vinyl release, special edition. It's an art book, like a coffee table art book.
Ooh.
They put both LPs in there. It has art, pages full of art from Stanley Donwood.
The art copy book.
I believe that's Stanley Donwood. Yeah,
It is. Probably.
it is.
Yeah.
And
I
then
don't know.
the
I'm just
CD.
assuming.
It's got the CD, and then it's got the 2 extra tracks. It's got Ill Wind and Spectre. But here's the coolest thing about this. If you ordered it, they were in the process of, they had already digitized all their masters, and they were going to throw them away. But instead, they decided, no, what we'll do is a little cool thing, we'll cut part of the master tape.
Didn't they do that with Kid A? I could have sworn you told me the special edition of Kid A, they sent you
No,
tape.
this was with this, and it was from the Kid A recording sessions.
Oh, that's
So
why I thought
have
it was Kid
a
A.
piece. I have a piece of that
Kid A.
master tape
Okay.
in my possession,
That's cool.
and it's still, when I hold it, I kind of get goosebumps. Like these are the signals that coming off of this tape that have inspired and millions of people have listened to
And loved.
So
Changed music forever.
I have a second of tape.
And remember, music changes culture, just like culture changes music. It's very cyclical. So
Well
you do have a
said.
little piece of history there with you.
I do, and
Yeah.
I show it to people, and they're like, "Cool,
What a
And I'm
nerd.
like,
They go,
they're
nerd alert.
Shut up. Okay. Anyway,
Get the
that's
F
T-Bot
outta
Tangent Corner.
I like it.
We should have a little.
Yeah.
outro.
I think that's like a Looney Tunes. Like,
Mhm.
But that brings us back to Identikit.
Yes.
This is where we get a little
We
more
have a
rhythmic
history
here.
with this one.
Yep, we do. We saw this live before it was fully mutated, fully gestating. It was gestating before
Mhm.
it was in
Sounded
its
a little different.
It's a larval form, but
The
and
T-Bot.
again, the lyrics are, man, I keep going back to the lyrics on this, and now I see you messing me around. I don't want to know. Broken hearts make it rain. Broken hearts make it rain. And this is where, like, I couldn't tell if it was a full choir singing with him, or he was double, tripling his vocals, or he is, was Ed, but I mean, it sounds like we get the full choir on this one, and we get the rare Johnny Greenwood guitar solo to end the track.
Yeah, you don't. We don't get the.
We don't get the Johnny Greenwood solo much.
Not as much in this. I feel like in Smile he's doing a lot more of that. But yeah, you don't hear that as much anymore. I kind of miss it. That was a good point. That was something I didn't think about. But yeah, he has a little thing going on there. Yeah, again, solid track on this. Album.
Solid. Yeah, another bridge to kind of the last 4 tracks on the album in a way.
Yeah, just not a lot to say about it too much. There's only, like, in kind of the last kind of half of this, the ones that only stand, there's 2 tracks that really stand out to me.
Well, we still got to talk about the numbers, and for all you Radiohead heads that may have known the previous version of the song, it was once called Silent Spring
Mm-hmm.
before they rearranged it for this album, and they called it the numbers. This is where I was hinting, of the few, like, we're protesting the man. This is our activism song. This is definitely one of the activism songs. This is where they sing about that the system is a lie, the rivers run dry.
This is the one I said was a surprise. Well, one of them. This was the one.
Well, I have to say, since you love Dex Dark, I thought before we got here, like after you said that, I just thought, I bet he's gonna love the numbers then too. Do you love? Is this a top 2, 3 track?
Well, no, yeah, it's a top 3. It's top 3. It's not a top 2. It's my 3rd favorite.
Okay, so it is up there. It's high. Because, see, this one is on the bottom of my list. So we're doing it
really?
again. Yeah, we're on the same spectrum, but opposite ends. Like, I like this track a lot, but it is not... It's on the top or the bottom 3 for me. So I guess I did guess right. No.
Yeah, I like
ya.
this one a lot. And when I first heard it, I was like, I've heard this song before. Or I've heard, like, something similar. And I had to go back and look. My friend Beador Tuck has
your twin brother, your evil twin with the mustache and it's like curls at the end. It's a greasy twirly mustache.
He has some bootlegs too, and I remember hearing some of that.
Yeah, B-Tuck, I believe.
B-Tuck, yep.
B-Tuck is his evil villain name. Yes. Track number 9 is Present Tense. I have a bone to pick with all the drummers out there. Buck, are you buckled up?
I'm gonna let me sit down.
Sit down. Are you sitting?
Yep.
This as a this is so pretentious. We're We're fucking musical snobs over here. As a
I'm like,
rhythmic,
and now I'm getting nervous.
as a rhythmic theorists out there are calling this a bossa nova. I beg to differ. I have been studying this
yes.
rhythm for a long, long time. Guys, I don't think this is a bossa nova, but we can argue. Please email us, text us. This is a samba.
Here. Yeah.
This is a samba, not a bossa
This is-
nova. Now, people think that the samba is the same. They think it's a fast bossa nova. That is not accurate. You can go fuck yourselves if you think that a samba is a fast bossa nova. It is not a fast bossa nova. It is a completely different rhythm. They're very similar but different. Okay, apples and oranges. You can unbuckle yourself now. I'm done.
Right now. This is the
You can unbuckle yourself.
I was not even expecting we were going down that path. I love
Well,
it.
present tense. There's a rhythm. You can, even for the people that are not musicians, they can be like, "Ooh, this is kind of Latin-y." They probably think that right away with that, kind of percussive thing.
Hashtag samba, not a bossa nova.
Yeah, it's so I've been studying Latin rhythms lately, and that was because when I was reading about this piece, they're like, "Oh yes, it's written as a bossa nova," and I was like, "No, it's fucking not. It's written as a samba." So that's why I had a bone to pick with you guys, you the audience right now. But if you would like to have a gentleman's quarrel, argument, debate, I think is the best way to put it, please contact Clayton. Send all hate mail to Clayton Anderson.
Send it to Clayton. If you have like your virtual glove, send it to him and slap him with it.
I challenge you to a duel. Okay, that's enough of my Novo's T-Book tangent corner. Let's get back to actually being serious and talking shop about this. I love present tense. I love this.
Yeah.
This dance. It's like a weapon. In you, I'm lost. All this love has been in vain. Powerful song. Love it. It's a samba, not a bossa nova.
Second favorite song on the album.
Ooh. I think this is where we overlap. This is one of my favorite songs on the album.
The first part, when I first listened to it, I was like, oh, this is okay. But it's the second half of the song that gets me. It's another one. It's another like bait and switch kind of thing with me. Yeah. And like you see this in actually all three of these
So
albums.
It goes Dex Dark, present tense, the numbers for you?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, we'll get to the last two, but I have an interesting take on one of them.
Track number 10 is Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Sailor, Rich Man, Poor Man, Beggar, Man, Thief.
So if the Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy wasn't a long enough title for a film, this is like not a fairy tale, but it's like a story they tell kids in the UK, right? Something like that is the Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Sailor story. I actually don't know anything about that.
Okay, I read, and this was like in 2016 when this fucking album came out. I remember reading something like
Tinker
that.
Tailor is a counting
I could be wrong,
game.
though.
No, it is. It's a counting game. It's a nursery rhyme. This is from the interwebs. Beep, boop, bop, boop. Beep, bop, boop. It's a counting game, nursery rhyme, and fortune-telling song traditionally played in England. So it's an English thing. Yeah.
Okay. It's a UK thing.
Lowly Americans don't play stuff like that.
Us fat Americans.
Us Americans don't know these fancy songs.
Fancy stories behind the songs.
Nursery rhyme songs.
I think I'm gonna make your jaw drop again. This is my second favorite track.
Ah, really? Really?
On the whole album. Yeah, I love this track. And I think it is again because of that the arrangement. The ending to this, that it's like a fucking roll, like I'm going, we have just entered, the whale's mouth, like we're going on an adventure, kind of feeling this track. The movements here, the harmonies live in my head rent free all the time. Again,
this was another one that's kind of reminiscent of some older Radiohead songs. It felt like there was some tidbits of like 70s kind of singer songwriter kind of things in it too. I don't know how to describe it. It just felt like there was a little bit of influence there, what I felt like. But it's a song I like. It's like kind of in the middle though.
I'm very curious to hear what you think of the album closer. Then, since we got Dex Dark is number 1, present tense is number 2. The numbers number 3. And then we have probably the most famous Radiohead song ever is True Love Waits. This was written circa 1995, Buck ish.
Yeah, they've
been trying to find this song, if you will, for 30 years.
Yeah, it took them a really long time. We've heard it live. It's actually not the first release of the song.
Right, there's an aux. That's definitely more of a traditional B-side. And this is where, correct me if I'm wrong, Bucktastic, this is where Tom is playing guitar. So it's a guitar ballad, not a piano ballad like you get on the album.
Yeah, it's from I might be wrong, the live recordings. I think it's their only live album they've ever done.
It was King of Limbs, and there's live albums.
Well, I mean, okay, yeah, they had the basement sessions.
From the basement sessions.
From the basement.
Get out of here. You're fired. You're no longer a Radiohead.
But those are live, but they're not like concert. Like
that's true. They're not concert.
Might Be Wrong is a concert album.
That is true. They're live albums, but they're like studio live albums.
Yeah. And again, that's a closing track. It was recorded at the Hollywood Bowl in LA in 2001. I have to say, I like the live version better. I like the guitar.
Oh my god! Again, I couldn't disagree more. I like this version more. This is my version of True Love Waits.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is it.
Wow.
Yeah. We learned a lot today.
We learned a lot about folks. We learned a lot about each other. We learned about what life is. And
that's why we still do the show. It's because our friendship, it's still evolving.
So behind the curtain a little bit, folks, like sometimes, because I'm a talker, I'll start in on talking about my thoughts on this. And Novo has to pull me in. He's like, stop. Keep it for the show. I don't want to know. And it's good.
Yeah, you got to save it.
You got to save it because we've learned. This is like, I feel like one of the first times we've been kind of on polar opposites on an album before on certain parts.
I feel like really we do that a lot though. No, I feel like we're on the same spectrum,
maybe I'm just
but on
shocked.
Different ends. But this is, I think, the extreme version of that.
Yeah,
we're learning. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah. This is more of the extreme. But yeah, I and maybe it's more of a nostalgia factor, like when you hear covers of songs or something, or like there's like an original like movie and then they did a remake of it and you're like, well, no, I like the older one better. Maybe that's where that's coming in, because
I like the book better.
I like the book better.
But regardless, I think this is where we will agree. The soul of the song is the same. It's the same lyrics.
It's the same song.
I'll drown my beliefs to have your babies. Just don't leave. It's still strong. It's still powerful. It's still like I think, was it meant to be a breakup song, but how he's singing it here on the studio version of True Love Waits, it is. I think it's gut wrenching. Whereas, like, clearly, if you read the lyrics, it's more like I would die for you. Like, it's kind of that kind of song. But here, it's like it's more what stands out is like the just don't leave part. Like, why are we breaking up? Just don't leave. Don't leave.
Yeah. For a young Theodore Buck.
Theodore T. Buckingham.
Yeah. This is
Most
like
of his name.
I feel at one time
Prince of Wales.
This was one of my breakup songs at one point.
Ooh. Okay. So it's definitely a breakup song for you.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those. Like I feel like this one, Last Flowers, was another one.
I agree with that. It's a powerful closer, and it's probably it's
a perfect closer in my opinion.
We will. Yeah, I agree with that. And it was, Radiohead has been wanting to close the circle for a long time, probably with the number of these tracks, to finally put them out proper. With their own studio version, a polished thing that will last, get through the test of time. And that brings us to the end.
Yeah.
So that is, guys, that's a moon-shaped pool. So I got to do my catchphrase. Let's tie a bow on this bee and tell the good people why. Why should they study not only all 3 albums, definitely as a collective whole, but a moon-shaped pool?
It's a special album. We've talked about it, that we're closing up tying a bow on a lot of things. We're closing up a lot of holes. I think True Love Waits, when I saw it was on the album, I think that was my first realization that this might be the last album we ever get. We might get singles. We might get when we have.
This is a sensitive topic, and I knew this was going to come up.
Yeah.
I feel like we're kind of having the talk.
We're having the
Buck.
talk, folks.
Buck, do you think this is our last Radiohead album?
I think it is. It's been 9 years.
9 years. We're going on almost on a decade here.
We have. This is the longest time we've not had a Radiohead album. If they do, they might do one more. But to be honest with you, I don't see that ever happening anytime soon. The band is doing their own projects. Tom and Johnny have their own thing going. Phil is doing his thing with his solo stuff. I think this is the end, and you know what? I'm not upset about it.
If they got to end somewhere, I couldn't think of a better place to end their career, especially with True Love Waits. Talk about we're needing to close some circles. This was the biggest one. This is almost like they put a bow on their entire career, because this is one of their most famous unreleased tracks ever, and they did when they were kind of getting started.
Yeah,
what a proper way to kind of start to end things. But and I agree with you, for the record, Buck. I think this probably may be the end too, and we're seeing that with the boys going on to make The Smile and solo albums, and Johnny continuing his career in film scoring, and and now Tom York's transitioning into film scoring a lot now.
And he just released something recently saying it sounds like he's going to do some solo.
Okay, shit.
As well.
We got to start doing a little homework then, Buck.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, it sounded like it was just overseas for now.
But time will tell. We don't know.
Yeah.
But until we get the official word, we still have a moon-shaped pool. And that closes our Radiohead music theory trilogy. Though this may be the end, it is another testament. It's another testament to their unrelenting need to refine their sound and their standards and constant evolution as a band. So if they do put something out again, I will not be surprised if it is completely different again. And then we'll have to make a quadrilogy. There'll probably be something that connects these three albums.
Trilogy.
The sequel trilogy.
Well,
yes, I love it.
I will say this. I do think we'll see them tour again.
Oh, and we will be there.
We'll be there. I think we're going to see them tour again. We might have a farewell tour kind of thing, but yeah, it's okay. If I will say this too, if they ended at the King of Limbs, I think I'd be a little bit more disappointed. I think I agree with you. Moonshaped Pool was a perfect bow to tie everything up on an amazing, groundbreaking and influential career.
Like, they'll go down, and you said this kind of in the last episode. They will go down as the same echelon as Pink Floyd, the Beatles. I mean, they changed music forever.
100%.
Guys, check them all out. In Rainbows, The King of Limbs, and this one, A Moon-Shaped Pool, the final album in Radiohead's music theory trilogy. Guys, I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for listening for the entire 3-part series and joining us on our little Radiohead month. We love you guys so much. I want to, of course, thank my guest, Mr. Theodore T. Buckingham. But before we go, we got a little extra for you, a little icing on the cake, a little cherry on top with what we call the gem of the week. My gem is simple. My gem is for all of the songs that are like True Love Waits. I urge you guys to go listen to the B-side or the aux version, and I want you to find all the Easter eggs in their discography and become that Radiohead head just like us. That is my gem for you. Listen to the original True Love Waits, then listen to the studio one, but then find all the other songs that are just like them.
As I've done it throughout the series, I'm doing covers. Either Radiohead doing covers or covers of Radiohead songs. This is Radiohead, 2 members of Radiohead covering one of my favorite songs, "The Rip" by Portishead. So if you go, you'll find it on YouTube. It's Tom and Johnny acoustically playing a cover of "The Rip." So check it out.
Check it out. And if you like that, of course, you can check us out at NovoDayProductions.com. Don't forget to follow us at _Novo_Day and Day is DE and at Novo Day Media. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things. You know what to do. It's internet etiquette by now. And if you'd like to sponsor a little love child or be on the show, don't forget to reach out to us at novodaymedia@gmail.com or novodayproductions@gmail.com. So until next time, guys, we'll see you in the next one. So be good to each other, and as always, good luck and Godspeed. We love you.
Art of the Beholder is brought to you by Novo Day Productions, created and hosted by Novo Day and the Novo Day Collective. facebook.com/NovodayMedia, @NovodayMedia on Twitter and Instagram. Music by A Company, facebook.com/ACoMusic123, ACO on Spotify. Logo design by Tom Justice, JESTUS, of thejusticecompany.com, and executively produced by Clayton Anderson. All rights reserved.